Hi, this is Kayye. We're here at the E4 AV Tour here in San Jose, California. I'm actually going to give you basically a debut here because Barco is basically going to make their North American debut of the Overture control system at Infocom in about a couple of months, but you're going to see it first here. I'm here with Steve Lamphear. Steve, you're the product manager in charge of Overture, right?
Well, actually, I'm in charge of channel education for Overture.
Okay, so that's good. I got the right person then, so you know how to educate. So first off, a lot of people probably don't know. I mean, everyone knows Barco for projectors and ClickShare, which is your wireless collaboration system, and obviously for projectors. But a lot of people don't know that you bought a company called Overture, or a company called, what was the company called? Medialon, that made Overture, which was more for large-scale, real-time control, I would say, for now. Exactly. But what you've done, Barco is going to launch at Infocom individual room control, sort of to compete against Crestron, right?
That's right, with a little bit of a different approach. So it's a completely software-based solution. It's actually installed as a Docker container app, which means that we can install that solution on any operating system, whether that's Windows or Linux or whatever your preference is.
Yeah, and the idea is that it's not for everybody, it's for individual room control. It's for simplified room control, right? It's not for big rooms. You're talking about small room applications, or do you expect people to replace all their control systems with this?
We'd love to see people replace all their control systems with this. We can really manage any size enterprise, any number of devices in any room. Our standard license is per room, up to 40 devices. But if you have additional devices, then we can license a little bit differently.
Okay, so 40 devices in a room, $700, plus there's an annual maintenance fee, right?
18% of that list price.
Okay, and I assume that the integrator can share in that revenue as well?
Absolutely. Matter of fact, because of the way that it's priced and the fact that we have centralized help desk as part of the solution standard, the integrator can also have services that they offer on top of that. So they can do centralized management for their customers, set up notifications that if a projector has a 5,000 hour lamp, then they can go in and see that that projector is at 4,900 hours, and then coordinate with the customer to go in and do service.
Okay, so this is all the same stuff that companies like Crestron and Extron have been providing for years. So this is an interesting claim. You're saying, okay, we can compete with Crestron and Extron in control, but I want them to see how you're doing it because you're taking a different approach because first of all, you have no hardware. You're starting with a completely software approach, right?
That's right, completely software. There's no in-room hardware required. Users can use their own BYOD device, or you can have a dedicated tablet or other device in the room if you prefer.
Start us out and show us how it works.
Yeah, so I'm actually logged in as an administrator, and that administrator, when they log in, is greeted with the dashboard view. And so I have a view here. It's all visualized. So everything that we're looking at is all browser-based. There's no software to install in order to manage, configure. Even in-room touch has no software apps to install. It's all browser accessed. When the user logs in then, they actually have a view of the campus, and they can drill down to the different rooms in that campus. They have a log view of everything that's occurring. Notifications are also part of this, so if there are alerts that are occurring.
So what we're looking at here is a view after someone's already programmed a system that informs them of what's going on. So I want you to kind of back up or go into a room and show us what it's like to actually control a room and set up a room.
Let's do that. So right now we're looking at one of the buildings on the campus. I'll go ahead and just click on floor 1. It just shows me another view of that. So now I'm actually drilled into that floor, and I can see the different rooms on this floor that are available that have devices in them that I can control. So I'll go ahead and click on one of those rooms, and that brings up the in-room experience for that room. And as an administrator, I see all the devices in that room, and I can now select any of those devices that I wanted to control. So I've got the F90 projector behind me from Barco. If I wanted to go in and just turn off the shutter on that, it's just a very quick click. It turns it off. It's just a few K command over the network. It's off. It lets me know that it's off, and I can just go ahead and turn that right back on. And all the other devices work the same. What's really interesting about this, though, is that it's all HTML5 based. So I'm using the same template for every room. I don't have to create individual menus for each room. The same template looks at the database, identifies the devices in that room, shows you the controls for those devices. And you may see more or less based on your unique user permissions to manage those devices.
Okay, so basically to control it, you would punch in an IP address or the name of the room, a common name, go to a URL basically. That drills you into whatever you have control over that room. If you're the admin, you'd see everything. If you're the janitor, you'd only be able to turn the lights on and off. If you're a teacher, turn the lights on and off, switch inputs, and select what I'm going to display, mute things like that.
Exactly. And you can
volume control.
Right, and you can give as much or as little permission as you want.
So show me how do you program this, a room like this? So now you've shown me what a finished room looks like. Show me the configurator.
Okay, so this is the configurator that allows me to set up all my points in a database. And a point is really anything in Overture. So it could be a campus, it could be a room, or the device itself. So in this case, what we'll do is we'll add a device to a room. And I've already got one started here. And you'll notice I'm able to give that device a friendly name, so that's how it will appear in the...
The friendly name is friendly.
Yeah, exactly. I got real creative on that one. The name, as it appears in the database, can have the same name or a different name. And then I can assign an icon to it. So Barco Overture knows what the icon should be based on the driver, but if you wanted to customize that, you could always go in and assign a different icon to it, and it'll show you a library of icons, and you could have as many or icons as you want to pull from there. So all I have to do now that I've done that is I can go in, decide what I'm adding to my network. In this case, we're going to add a device, so I'll just leave it on device. And we'll change the subtype to, let's add another projector. So I'll add a projector. I can now browse to my library of drivers. So
now, is it expecting you only to use a Barco projector, or can you use Christie, Sony, Epson, whatever?
Anybody's projector. We have dozens of drivers. If we don't have the driver available to you, we'll get it for you. We also have a driver SDK, so you can develop them yourself if you want to.
Okay, and so if somebody's developing drivers, do you have a central place that they can, do you have a community where you're able to share drivers like that? Are you working on that?
We're about to announce that, yeah.
So that's a yes.
That's a yes. So I'll go ahead and, so now that I was adding a projector, I'm just going to go in and find the projector driver that I want to use. Maybe I scaled up a little bit too high here. So there's a Barco projector, so I'll grab that one. From there, all I have to do is add the IP address and the listening port that Barco device uses.
So when you're loading the Barco driver, since it knows what projector it is, or even let's say it's an Epson projector, you've determined what features they're going to need to have control over. So for example, muting the video, switching inputs, for example, if they're using the projector to switch inputs rather than an external switcher, things like that. Is that correct?
That's right. So when we develop the driver, we look at the available command set for that device. And so we can bring the entire command set in, or just the most important features, things like input control, and perhaps shutter control and power control. So if we just wanted to control that, that's all we would include in the driver.
Okay, keep going forward, because I hate that the camera's just sitting there, but I want to make sure I understand all this. So you load the projector driver, and all of a sudden it's going to appear.
That's right. So now all I have to do is tell it what room in my network that's in. So I just click to search one. I can find the room. I can drill down to it as well, so I can just do a search. In this case, I just went ahead and selected it. Selected the control server that it belongs to, so we may have more than one control server for multiple sites. And now that I'm done, I can click to save that. I can also add it on the map. You'll notice we also have the ability to make it so that these controls are associated with tags or users specifically. But I'm just going to go in and save the changes that we made. And now I'd like to switch over to the in-room experience. So this tab actually shows the in-room experience for that room. And I should have added here. There it is at the bottom. There's the
called friendly.
Yeah, that's the one that we just added. So now we can go in and manage that. Just going to refresh that actually. So we had friendly as a click share before, now it's a projector. Navigate to the Malaga room. And there's friendly as a projector instead of as a click share with all the projector controls.
So this tells us what controls you have over. So then what's happening is I noticed that you're doing this on an iPad, well, a tablet of some type. It's being mirrored over here on a monitor and on the projector, but the actual sort of room simulation is happening behind us here. If you look behind Stephen here, there's a projector here. So you can show us how you turn off the projector or mute the projector. So there you go, mutes the projector. So this is completely HTML. So ultimately the user interface is a browser.
That's right. And when I make a change in my browser, everyone else is updated as well. So now they can look at that menu and see that it's off, see what the status is. If they need to turn it back on, they go in, make that same change, and it turns right back on again.
So I think I know the answer to this, but I want to make sure I do. So for devices that are network controllable, you don't need anything, right? Because everything's on the network. But devices that are RS-232 or IR, I assume you have to use some sort of third-party controller that converts it to network.
That's exactly right. So partners like Global Cache that allow us to do IP to serial, IP to IR, that's how we would address those devices.
Okay, and then let me think if I have any other questions. I mean, I think you've done a good job. Oh, user interface. So obviously you have the ability to use it if you're, anything that has a browser, a phone, a tablet, computer, whatever, and you've already told me that with my login, if I'm a customer and I log in, it's going to tell me what I have functionality over that was set by the AV or IT department, right? So I only get, if I'm, as I said, janitor, and I only want to give them the ability to turn the lights on and off, that's all I'm going to give them. But what about other user interfaces? What if they want a physical button? Then what do you do?
So we could actually, if you want to use a physical button, then we can do things like GPI triggers or USB, so that we're actually receiving that command and then launching a behavior based on that.
Okay, so you would have the ability to integrate third-party buttons and third-party controllers to sort of simplify control if they didn't want to use a user interface like a browser.
Exactly, or even emergency systems that use things like those types of triggers. We can use those emergency system triggers to actually have us launch a behavior that turns all the devices off in that room. So that would be the same type of thing as rather than a button, it's an emergency pull.
Okay, so this is very interesting. So, I mean, you truly are and believe that you're going to be in the control system market full-fledged, and this is going to sort of officially launch and roll out at Infocom, right?
That's right, yeah, and absolutely. We think that there's a really good market out there. Our pricing is really simplified because we're licensed per room, so it gives our customer base a very low cost of entry to get into AV control. So if it's a small market, customer has one meeting room, we think we're really well positioned for them. But if they have 100 meeting rooms, 500 meeting rooms, the same platform can control it just as easily. And it's all configuration over programming, so the ability to go in and set up a large network is a couple of hours versus weeks of programming and developing unique menus for every room.
But ultimately, that program has to live somewhere, and I guess it's going to live on a PC. So you must have some standards, minimum standards for control, right?
That's right.
You have to have a CPU.
Yeah, there's a CPU. There are two parts of the solution. There's actually the web interface with the database backend, and then there's a control interface that allows us to actually speak to all of those devices.
What are the minimum hardware requirements?
So if you install all of that on one PC, it's a Core i7.
And then last question is, everybody's going to ask this, is what part of this does the ClickShare play? Like, where does the ClickShare fit into this, or is this separate from the ClickShare?
So ClickShare is still being developed. So we will be able to go in and manage the ClickShare. We have that ability today to go in and manage the power for it, monitor it, see what sources are being used. But we will also be announcing in the near future the ability to go in and do the input control, and everything that you do from the actual ClickShare button or from the interface there, you'll be able to port that right into Overture.
Okay. Excellent. So, glimpse of the future, software-based control system, and Barco's in the control system market now. So now you got another big name in there. So we got the scoop here at the Almo E4 AV Tour here in San Jose. Stephen, thank you very much for the demo. Thanks for explaining. I can't really shake your hand there because of my shoulder, but thank you very much, and thanks for watching this. Thanks for shooting this, and we're also going to shoot a video on the new ClickShare unit, the CSE 800.